Oi! Yes! You guys, it's Tuesday night. We got UFC Vegas 42 coming up on Saturday. You know what that means? It means it's time for Just the Tip with me, your host, Uncle Weezy. This is going to be the sensual prelude to the balls deep breakdowns that I do tomorrow. I've got a couple of fights picked out here. I know I'm going to be doing Jung versus Kennedy and Nzchekuwu is one of the balls deep breakdowns. I'm thinking about doing Moises versus Alvarez as one, or maybe Rothwell de Lima. Or if you guys have any ideas, let me know on Twitter. But before we worry about the balls deep breakdowns tomorrow, we got to worry about just the tip tonight. 12 fights, UFC Vegas 42 coming up on Saturday. Let's get ready. Let's get through all the numbers. We'll finish up with Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. And let's see what you guys are doing here in the chat. We got my guy Chris Kalanzis in the room saying, hoping Uncle Weezy pulls out the Hefner robe for this episode. My man, it's Tuesday night. It's just the tip. That means the smoking jacket is on. The finery is out on Front Street for you all to see. We got to be at our best on Tuesdays, man. It's early in the week. We can still beat a little bit of line movement out there. We beat some of the line movement. If you listen to us on Stat Diggers, me and DFS by the numbers on Sunday night on Pub Sports Radio. If you haven't seen that yet, check it out. I got the link to that in the description. I'll also have the link to the DraftKings show that we did on Pub Sports Radio today, but I haven't added that to the description yet. But I will have timestamps on this video as well after I'm done filming it. I'll get all that ready for you guys. Check out everything in the description there. It's all good stuff. The stats that we'll be looking at on this video as well will be available for free in the description of this video. Just click on that, link it up, and let's look at all the stats that we got for these matchups, man, because it's us against the bookies, and we got to do our best in order to beat these guys because they always win. We got Daz Files in the room saying, I imagine a robe, a martini glass, and records in the background. Well, we got a smoking jacket. We got records in the background, and we don't have a martini glass, but we do have the Tuesday night Just the Tip Paloma, my friends. We got a little bit of grapefruit soda and tequila in here, a nice refreshing beverage on a Tuesday night as we break down all 12 fights on the UFC Vegas 42 card from a statistical perspective. Andretti saying, and a spliff in hand. I don't have it in hand, my man, but we got some in the back, you know. We'll figure that out a little bit later on when we're done with all the orders of business that we have in front of us today. Big up yourself, Andretti. Thanks for stopping by, my man. Raw Torque saying, feet up, head back, waiting for the word at Uncle Weezy. The word has come, my man. We got Bailey Riplinger in the room saying, sup. We got Andy MG saying, oi, yes, Weezy. We are here, my man. Let's shave some bookie asses this weekend. Let's do it, Andy. Looking forward to it. We got my guy DFS by the numbers saying just the tip. Fire. Let's go. Matthew Chalk saying, oi. We got Pocket QB Lamar Jackson saying, okay, 10 there and 11 here. Yes, 11 on the East Coast, 10 o'clock Central. If you're in California, 8 o'clock. And we got Pocket QB saying Rothwell by sub all day. We will definitely talk about that fight. Matthew Chalk saying, I agree. Do I get to refresh when it's live? And we got Rothwell for if, and we got it. Okay, yeah, Rothwell for it. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you there, man. I'm on Rothwell this week. We got Yes Weezy from Borgie 2008. We got Jabril saying, Yo, Uncle Weezy, I need that heat. We got it, man. It's ready. We're here. We're ready to go, man. Jack Attack saying, salute, Weezy. Dropping the like before I hit the sack. Catch the replay tomorrow. Let's go, Big Ben. Let's go, Jack Attack. Let's go, man. Thanks for stopping in and dropping the like, man. I really appreciate that. And we got Aldo saying, did I smoke a blunt before the show? No, I did not, man. I don't really smoke blunts, my friend. I do like to smoke the occasional bowl, you know, but right now I'm just kind of getting a little bit lathered up here with this Paloma. It's Tuesday night. I'm feeling loose. I'm ready to go. We got some fights to break down. I even got a little bit of a story for you guys later on. We got a 4-leg parlay coming at you after we break down all 12 fights. We're going to finish it up with Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week, like we always do on Tuesday nights. And we got the Die Hard MMA podcast saying, Uncle Weezy, what's up, dude? Good to see you, my man Clint. That is my favorite show on MMA Twitter, on MMA YouTube, man. The Die Hard MMA podcast is an absolute classic. Thanks for coming in, Clint. Appreciate it. Yo, first time here, keep hearing your name on on LOTN. Yeah, my guy Locke's the man, dude. Locke has got one of the best shows on YouTube as well. He's been doing it for a long time. One of the coolest cats out there, along with Clint, along with my guy DFS by the numbers. I'm really lucky to be a part of this group that we have here on YouTube, Handicap and Fights, because it's a really fantastic group of guys and ladies, and I am just honored to be a part of it. Grayson saying, go deep. That's right. We're going to do that. We got Dimitar of Genev saying, yes, Weezy the boss man. Let's go. And we got Metalingus in the room. Thank you, Weezy. It's better to have you early in the week. Yeah, I appreciate that. And I do like to be here earlier in the week. It's always better to get this done on Tuesday night. Gets more views. You guys get to spend more time digesting it. And we get it out earlier in the week. We got a better chance to beat line movement that way. And what's up, all you tip enthusiasts out there? I heard you might back Felicia. About better say it. I'm not a Felicia Spencer fan, but I'm going to have to back her this week. I'm going to need Bootsy on stream with his opinion too, Uncle Weezy. Bootsy, he'll come in at some point and he will be barking when the time is appropriate, when he has decided that time is appropriate. Dan Goldstein, good to see you, man. Catch us in the AM. Rerun out, Weez. Thanks, CS. Appreciate you stopping in. Eric Betts Fight saying, this is my first time attending the show live. Excited to be here. Let's do this thing. Eric, thanks for stopping in, man. Appreciate it very much. We got Swoosh Plays Game saying, let's go. You know why I'm here. He's here for the ass shaving of the week, you guys. That drink looks delish. It is delish, about better. I can tell you that. We got Dan Goldstein saying, Uncle Weezy is for sure backing Felicia. Max Bet. We got Dan Goldstein busting my balls like only Dan Goldstein can. Dan, Diehard MMA saying, love you, Weezy. I don't catch your streams enough. Glad to catch a live show. I appreciate you for stopping in live. And then Cuban Assassin saying the Irish shaved that ass last Saturday. Yeah, he did, man. You know, a lot of people were talking about how he was getting absolutely destroyed by Jordan Williams. I mean, he absorbed some shots, but I mean, it wasn't like it was a one-sided ass beating before he knocked the dude out. I mean, I don't know how you can be, you know, I mean, I guess you could say like maybe he didn't have the best performance, Ian Gary, but I mean, a win by first round highlight reel knockout is good enough. That's what we're trying to get when we pick the ass shaving of the week, is not just a clean victory, like a clean ass shaving, but we're looking for that, you know, that violent finish, that finish that says, ooh, boy, you know, we know it would have been a good one last week was Barnett getting it with that spinning back kick. That was crazy, man. I can't believe that dude knocked out Volante like that. That was crazy, but you know, that was a low-level fight. But Headley One is saying, where am I getting the round 4-5 or decision prop on Max? That is on FanDuel. You can find that there. I did not pull the trigger on it at minus 105, and I think it's already minus 120, and it might be moving away from there too. I didn't pull the trigger. I don't know if I am gonna, Headley One, but man, I like Max in this spot. And we got CS saying, Clint had Masvidal on this week. That's my guy Tajik Bey. Kind of looks like Masvidal, but Tajik Bey supports the YouTube community, I think, a little bit more than Jorge Masvidal does. So let's shout out Tajik Bey. Big ups, man. We got Bailey saying Clint is Ben Rothwell's son. Everybody says that, man. And Clint, Christmas is going to be heated in the Rothwell house this year. Heard you're fading the old man. Yes, he is. But you know what, guys? We got to get into it. We got 12 fights to check out here from a statistical perspective. I'm going to share my screen with you guys, and we're going to see if my guy Smooth Jimmy Apollo is ready to go here, if he is got his cigar, if he's got his lock of the week and that trademark smile of his. And there it is, man. Smooth Jimmy's ready to go. And when Smooth Jimmy's ready to go, it means your Uncle Weezy's ready to go. Let's pop these stats on the screen for you guys here. Let's first start by getting this out of the way. And I don't have any chat up on the screen. This is good. So we're going to start out with the curtain jerker at 205 pounds. Kennedy Nzchekuwu versus Jung. And I'm going to zoom in for you guys here. Hopefully you can see that enough. So we've got Jung 2 years younger. It's going to be Nzchekuwu with a 1-inch height advantage and a 5-inch reach advantage, and he's a southpaw. We got Jung out of Korean top team. We got Kennedy Nzchekuwu fighting out of Fortis MMA. It's Jung who's going to have the experience advantage here. He has been a pro for about a year and a half longer, and it has about 50 more minutes in the cage. However, it's Nzchekuwu who has 6 of his 10 professional fights at the UFC level. And when Nzchekuwu stepped in and took his Contender Series fight, his Contender Series debut against Anton Berzin, this young man only had 2 professional fights when he got invited to be on the Contender Series. Very impressive to be asked to fight at that level, that young into your MMA career. But I think it has a lot to do with the fact that Kennedy Nzchekuwu has some real physical gifts here, being 6'5" and having a freakish 83-inch reach and being a southpaw. The guy's got fantastic conditioning, and he's extremely tough. He absorbed a ton of strikes in the Carlos Ulberg fight and kept coming forward. Really fought pretty smart, but he has got his hands full in this one against Jung. Now, we haven't seen Jung face the best level of competition here, but this dude is younger. He's more experienced. He's got a better finishing rate. Jung finishing 85% of his 14 wins. That's 12 of 14 wins coming inside the distance. That would be 2 by submission, 10 by knockout. The guy's got a serious amount of power. Nzchekuwu has finished 6 of his 9 pro wins inside the distance, all 6 by knockout. And when we look at the 3 combined losses of these 2 guys, 2 of them have come inside the distance. 1 by submission for Jung, 1 by submission for Nzchekuwu. But neither one of these guys are much of submission artists. But we did see Jung get 1 in the UFC. If we look at the striking stats here, you guys, we're going to see Jung with a better striking accuracy at 45%, but the volume advantage absolutely is going to be going to Nzchekuwu here. The guy's got great conditioning, and he can absolutely push a pace and pressure you and throw a ton of volume and not empty his gas tank. So we do see that Jung is landing 3.95 significant strikes a minute and absorbing 3.9. And then we've got Kennedy Nzchekuwu landing or throwing 11.67 significant strikes per minute, landing 5, absorbing 5.03. It's Jung who's more accurate and more powerful here, as he's about 3% more accurate, and he lands a knockdown about twice as often as Nzchekuwu does. 1.18% of his significant strikes for Jung land in the knockdown, 0.62% for Nzchekuwu land in the knockdown. Defensively, it's going to be Jung with a 55% striking defense that's better than Nzchekuwu. Nzchekuwu is very hittable against Carlos Ulberg. I'm going to give Jung the striking advantage here. He will be landing the bigger shots, the more impressive shots, the more powerful shots. However, I do think it's Nzchekuwu who's going to be throwing more. He's going to be bringing more volume, and he will probably be the one that's doing more damage in the 3rd round, which is when Nzchekuwu really starts to push that pace and really starts to try to break you. And when we look at the grappling stats here, we're going to see that Nzchekuwu's only shot 1 takedown in all 6 of his UFC fights. So it's very clear he plans to keep this fight standing. That's where he's most comfortable. Jung has 8 out of his 13 takedown attempts being successful for 61.54% accuracy. However, all 8 of those takedowns came in the William Knight fight, and we had not seen him get a takedown prior to that. So it was interesting to see Jung add that new wrinkle to his game in the William Knight fight, when he did go to the takedowns over and over and over again, because William Knight was just throwing really hard low leg kicks and was throwing everything into all his punches. And I think Jung was actually a little bit intimidated by the power of William Knight. And because William was throwing with such heat, he figured that he'd just take the path of least resistance. He got over-under grips, getting what Daniel Cormier was calling a Polish throw. It's an outside trip. It worked over and over again, and he did get 1 double leg takedown as well in that fight against William Knight. But yeah, we saw a new wrestling angle to Da Jung's game, which is very interesting. Da Jung's got excellent takedown defense in his own right at 88.89%. However, we're not going to really see him we're not going to see that takedown defense get tested against Nzchekuwu here, who's only attempted 1 takedown in 6 fights. And Nzchekuwu in his own right, showing 80% takedown defense. He is getting taken down 2.08 times for 15 minutes, but he's only being controlled less than 15% of his UFC career cage time. And that's really important to look at here, because we see that Nzchekuwu has tried 1 takedown attempt and his opponents have tried 45. So it's very clear that everybody that he's fought just doesn't want to strike with him. And that might be the case with Da Jung, because Da Jung didn't even want to strike with William Knight. So this is going to be an interesting fight. Let's look at the strength of schedule here, you guys. So we've got Kennedy Nzchekuwu in the UFC has fought the better brand of competition here with a 1.67 ratio to Jung's 0.94 ratio and 2.67 total fights to Jung's 8.75 total fights. I think it's the Alves fight that really kind of stretches that and makes it look like Jung's been fighting a bunch of experienced competition. He's fought Sam Alvey and then a bunch of guys who do have more than 1 fight, but don't have great records in the UFC, like Ibragimov, Mike Rodriguez, and then William Knight. While we see that Nzchekuwu has been fighting guys like Anton Berzin, Dennis Bryant, Paul Craig, Stosic, Carlos Ulberg, and then Danilo Marquez. So, yeah, the strength of schedule does favor Nzchekuwu, but not by a whole lot. And we see that Nzchekuwu beats the better win-loss ratio competition. However, it's Jung beating the more experienced competition. And Nzchekuwu's only loss coming to Paul Craig, 7-4 record. Take out that win against Nzchekuwu, and he's 6-4 in the UFC, 10 total fights, 1.5 ratio. So I'm picking Kennedy Nzchekuwu for this fight, you guys. I think what he does down the stretch is going to be the big difference here. But the things that you can't teach are conditioning, size, length, and durability. And I think Nzchekuwu has all of those characteristics in spades here. I think Da Jung will be the better technical striker. He'll be more powerful. He'll be the more likely guy to win minutes using wrestling and grappling here. However, if he's not successful taking Nzchekuwu down and holding him down, I think the optics are going to be bad here, because Jung's going to have a hard time getting inside on Nzchekuwu. Nzchekuwu does throw hard, straight punches, and he does bring a ton of volume. He'll be busier. I think he'll be moving more. I think the optics are going to be better for Nzchekuwu than they are for Jung. I think Jung's going to need to either land a really big shot here, and Nzchekuwu's really durable, or really have the same amount of success with the wrestling that he did in the Knight fight, which I don't think is going to be likely. He's not going to be able to get those trips against somebody that's taller than him. I'm telling you that. So I'm picking Kennedy Nzchekuwu to win this, and I think he's going to get it done in the 3rd round inside the distance. But however, I'm not betting that. There has been a lot of money coming in on Nzchekuwu. Let's just check the money lines here, you guys, real quick. We don't have a lot of props on this one, but we do see Da Jung opened at minus 225, you guys, and then has been bet all the way down to minus 120. And then Nzchekuwu opened up here at plus 188, and he has moved all the way down to minus 103. So if you're on the Jung side and you think Jung is going to win this fight, and I have no problem with that, this is a very close fight in my opinion. Boy, it seems like you might be able to wait or even just grab him right now, because there's all the money is coming in on Nzchekuwu. And until you kind of see that money start to come in on Jung, I think you can wait and get the value there. But I am going to pick Nzchekuwu, and I do think he's going to get it done inside the distance. The guy's got a lot of gifts, and I'm really high on him. I think the sky's the limit for this kid, but this is 2 really good, really young, getting better all the time light heavyweights here, and I can't wait to see this fight. It's one of the most exciting fights on the card for me. I went a little bit long talking about it, but we won't have that problem with the next fight because it's one that I don't have as good of a feel for. I don't have as much information for you guys. It's been a while since I've seen Mark Diakese in the cage, and I don't know what to think of Rafael Alves. So let's go through the numbers here, you guys, and see what we got. Diakese, still only 28 years old, despite the fact he's had 9 UFC fights and has been a pro for over 8 years. So he's going to be younger here. He's going to be 2 inches taller and have a 5-inch reach advantage. So a massive tail of the tape advantage here for Mark Diakese. It's going to be Alves who has more experience here, but he only has 3.5 more minutes of cage time as a pro, but he does have 11 more fights. 19 wins, 10 losses for Rafael Alves. So that's not impressive at all. My length of pro career is wrong here. I got to fix that. It's actually 14 years, 1 month, 26 days. So yeah, he's been a pro for almost twice as long as Diakese. And Diakese's fought a much higher percentage of his career at the UFC level here, having 9 UFC fights to Alves's 2, and about 80 more minutes in the UFC cage. If we look at the finish rates here, Alves getting as many wins by submission as he has by knockout. He's got a 74% finish rate overall. That would be 14 of 19 wins coming inside the distance, 7 by knockout, 7 by submission. And we see Diakese has finished 50% of his wins inside the distance, 1 by submission, 6 by knockout. And if we look at the career losses of these guys, Diakese, 4 career losses, only 1 of them inside the distance by submission. Rafael Alves, though, this is an alarming stat. 10 losses and 9 of them coming inside the distance. That's the sign of a quitter. That's the sign of somebody that looks for the door when things aren't going his way. That got me off of him initially. But then I got to go look at the numbers a little further in detail here for Alves. He's training out of MMA Masters now. And we haven't seen these losses in a while. You know, it's been since 2016 since he was finished. Jason Fisher due to an injury. Wagner Rocha. Pimentel, who's 13-1 via guillotine. Tavares here by armbar in round 3. A lot of round 2 and round 3 finishes late in fights against this guy. But then again, they're coming a long time ago. So, you know, the last time he was finished was against Jason Fisher back in 2016. And since then, you know, he's on a 4-5. He's 5-1 in his last 6 fights. Unanimous decision loss to Ismagulov. He had some success right at the beginning of that fight, but then Ismagulov became Ismagulov and just kind of took it over. If we look at the striking stats, we're going to look at them here for Diakese in particular, because we've got a 9-fight sample size compared to only a 2-fight sample size for Alves. But Diakese lands 3.08 per minute and absorbs 2.79, 39% accuracy. He's showing some pretty good power with 0.58% knockdowns per total significant strikes landed, 54% striking defense, not fantastic. He's been knocked down once in 9 fights. Alves landing only 2.01 significant strikes a minute, absorbing 3.71. But, you know, Ismagulov is really good on the feet, really good defensively. But we do have that. He has landed a knockdown and only 46 significant strikes landed, and that shows how explosive Rafael Alves is, whether he's trying to lock in that guillotine that he got in his Contender Series win, or whether he's, you know, throwing heat at the beginning of fights. The guy can hurt you. The guy can surprise you. He's very explosive. 56% striking defense, but, you know, you've got to give Diakese the striking advantage here. It's really a no-brainer. The guy's a career kickboxer. He's fought the better brand of competition, 9 UFC fights compared to 2 for Alves. And in the fights that Alves has been in here, he's getting outstruck 2.01 to 3.71 significant strikes a minute. So, yeah, man, I think that, you know, Alves can be dangerous at any time of the fight as long as he's got his legs under him. But, you know, this is a problem if he can't carry that late into the fight, because a guy like Diakese is going to be there for all 3 rounds. He's been tested at this level. And, I mean, the guy is struck for 3 rounds with Rafael Fisayev. He's beating guys like Venata and Duffy and losing to guys like, you know, Fisayev, Hack-Parast, Hooker. This is the upper level of the division that Rafael Alves is not a part of yet. And then we look at the grappling numbers, and actually Mark Diakese not doing bad here. 44 takedown attempts in 9 fights. He's gotten 16 of them. He's averaging over 2 takedowns per 15 minutes. He's out-controlling his opponents slightly, 18.75% to 17%, showing only 63% takedown defense. He's being taken down 1.35 times per 15 minutes. I'd say Diakese's opponents have been a little more efficient in the grappling, in that they've only attempted 27 takedowns to Diakese's 44, but they're controlling each other about the same amount of time. While Alves has been controlled for 36.73% of his UFC career. So if Diakese at any point doesn't like how this is going on the feet, he could potentially try to take this to the ground. Alves will attack with guillotines and submissions, but if Diakese can stay out of that, he's only been subbed once in his career. I think he'll probably have some success on top as well. If we look at the strength of schedule here, we can see the average opponent for Mark Diakese in the UFC has a 3.44 and 2.89 record and a 1.19 win-loss ratio. And the guys that Diakese beating, not particularly impressive, 2 wins, 2.6 losses, 0.77 ratio. And the guys that are beating Diakese are impressive. 5.25 and 3.25 average record, 8.5 total fights, 1.62 ratio. So Diakese is fighting the better brand of competition here. He's got the tail of the tape advantage. He's the better striker. And he's the more likely guy to go to takedowns and to win minutes on the ground. So while I think that Alves has probably got a chance to make some noise here early in this fight, I do think Mark Diakese should come out on top. We haven't seen Diakese fight for about a year now, but I still think he's not rusty enough that, if Alves doesn't catch him early, that I think Diakese should get comfortable in there and be able to cruise to a decision victory over Rafael Alves. Since, I think Alves is a little bit different now. I know he's been finished in 9 of his 10 losses, but Diakese, not what we call a finisher at this level. Even in the UFC, he's finished 2 of his 5 wins. But it's been a while since he's finished a fight, and these were lower level opponents that he did finish. So the pick is going to be Diakese by decision here. And we've got Cortney Casey against Liana Jojua here. Jojua is going to be 8 years younger. It's going to be Casey, who's 3 inches taller and having a 5-inch reach advantage. So, you got to give Casey the measurables, but it's going to be Jojua, who's 8 years younger. So that has its own advantages and its own statistical significance. So, I'm going to say that while Casey, has that physical advantage, the youth is going to be on Jojua's side, but the experience is obviously going to be on Casey's side here. 18 pro fights, 13 of them in the UFC. So, even though Casey's got a 9-9 record as a pro, she's been fighting pretty much her entire career at the highest level and has been fighting women that are way tougher than the opponents that Liana Jojua has fought thus far. We got 13 UFC fights for Casey, only 3 for Jojua, and Jojua is 1-2, while Casey is 5-8 in the UFC. We got a 77% finish rate for Cortney Casey, which is very good, and she's finished 3 of her 5 UFC wins, while Jojua has an 88% finish rate as a pro, and she's finished her only UFC win. So you combine the wins here, and 4 of 6 of them have come inside the distance. And then if we look at the UFC losses, Cortney Casey's only been finished once in her 8 UFC losses, and that was by submission, while Jojua has been knocked out. It was a TKO doctor stoppage due to a cut on her nose. That's her finish. So she's been lost. She's been finished in both of her UFC fights, and in 3 of her 4 career losses have come inside the distance for Jojua. So this is actually a place where I could see the under coming in here. I could see a fight doesn't go to decision here, having a little bit of value, because even on the wins and on the losses, there's some value there against the line, but in particularly on the win side. And then we see that there probably is a gap in the level of competition here. So maybe Jojua might be in over her head, or, if this fight does go to the ground, we could see either one of these ladies snatching up an armbar from guard. It's been a specialty for both of them in their careers. Jojua's striking numbers, piss poor in the UFC, 2.53 landed, 4.86 absorbed, 40% accurate. While Casey's landing more than she absorbs. She lands 4.33 and absorbs 4.19, throwing over 10 strikes a minute, 39% accurate, 53% defense. She's only been knocked down once in 672 significant strikes absorbed. Got to give Casey the striking advantage here. She hits harder. She's been in there with better strikers, and she's got vicious low leg kicks. While Jojua actually does move and box pretty well, but I think Jojua is most at home when she's grappling, as we see, 6 of her 8 wins inside the distance by submission. She does like to win that way. Casey, in 13 fights, has only attempted 11 takedowns. She's gotten 3 of them. 27% takedown accuracy, only 5.85% control time for. And then we see that her opponents are attempting 4 times as many takedowns as her, and they're getting 9 times as many takedowns as Casey. So her takedown defense is below 40%, you guys, Cortney Casey. She's only successfully defended 17 of 44 takedown attempts against. 2.53 takedowns allowed per 15 minutes, and a whopping 34% control time against. So Cortney Casey's fights are taking place in control time positions about 40% of the time. And like 7/8 of that time, you guys, Cortney Casey's on her back. So it's really a bad look here. Casey has not done well with the defensive grappling. She has not been what I would call efficient in the grappling exchanges here. She's low percentage on her takedowns. She's low percentage on her takedown defense. She's getting out controlled at like almost a 6-to-1 ratio. So there are holes on the ground there. However, when we look at Cortney Casey's 2 submission wins, she's gotten them from her back, getting arm bars. So, she's maybe the reason that her takedown defense hasn't been great is because she's trying to get taken down so that she can get that arm bar from guard. And Jojua might, go her way and kind of give her what she wants there. But however, Jojua hasn't attempted 1 takedown, you guys, in 3 fights in the UFC. So I don't know if Jojua wants to get this fight to the ground. Will she be able to? I haven't seen her wrestle. We'd have to go back and look at the regional scene footage to see if she wrestles, but I haven't seen her wrestle. And then we see the same problem here with Jojua, as she's controlling her opponents about 16% of the time, but being controlled 40% of the time. So she's been inefficient in the grappling exchanges. She's been out-controlled by her opponents, but she also has snatched up an arm bar from guard against Diana Belbita. So it seems like both of these ladies aren't particularly good at being efficient on the ground. They don't mind losing minutes there as long as they get a chance to win the fight with that arm bar from guard. When this fight is standing, I do see Casey having a pretty significant advantage here in the power, in the boxing, in just being more technical. Jojua might be faster. Jojua might have a little bit better footwork, but I think Casey will have the power advantage here and have the striking advantage. She's obviously got the experience advantage. It's going to be the grappling is going to be close. And then we see that, Casey, she hasn't even been fighting the best competition either, as the ratio of her competition is below 1. Her average opponent has a record of 4 wins and 4.6 losses. And she's beating opponents that have a record of 3.4 wins and 5.2 losses. So she's really only beating women with losing records. However, Jojua fits that bill, being 1-2 in the UFC. And even the girls that are beating her have just a slightly winning record. So this is a big stay away from me. I can't really find ways to say that I think Jojua really wins this fight, other than maybe an armbar from guard, and I'm not really going to bet that. And I don't see a path for Jojua via wrestling and top control and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just going to say Cortney Casey here, and I'm going to pick Casey to win this inside the distance. I think she either wears out her legs with leg kicks and maybe gets a knockout that way, or maybe gets a ground and pound knockout. But yeah, I'm going to go with Cortney Casey to finish this one inside the distance. Let's move on to Woodson against Anglin. This is an interesting one, you guys. It's a striker versus grappler. Woodson's going to be the boxer, the striker. Anglin is going to be the wrestler here. We're going to see a huge height advantage and a 7-inch reach advantage here for Sean Woodson. I don't know where Woodson's training these days. I know he had a cup of coffee over at Glory, but I think he left there. I don't know where he is. The last update I have on Colin Anglin is Scorpion Fighting Systems. Both these guys fighting out of the United States. All right, you guys, we got one more pro fight for Anglin. We've got almost identical cage time here. Woodson's been a pro for 1 year longer. And we got Anglin with 2 UFC fights, Woodson with 4. And so I give Woodson a little bit of an experience advantage here, just because even though he has one less fight, he's fought a higher percentage of his career at the UFC level. And he actually has about almost 30 more minutes in the UFC cage, while the regular pro experience numbers are actually pretty even here. If we look at the finish stats, we're going to see Sean Woodson not a finisher, you guys. Only 3 of his 8 wins have finished inside the distance, while for Anglin, it's 5 of his 8. Once by submission, 4 by knockout for Anglin, and we got 2 knockouts and 1 submission for Sean Woodson. If we look at the 3 combined losses for these guys, 2 of them have come inside the distance. Colin Anglin got knocked out by Melsik Bagdasaryan, and Sean Woodson got subbed by Julian Erosa. If we look at the striking numbers here, we're going to see some really impressive numbers on the Woodson side. Throwing over 12 significant strikes a minute, he lands 5.27 and only absorbs 3.94. Showing some pretty good power, landing a knockdown on 0.77% of the significant strikes that he lands. He's getting 0.61 knockdowns per 15 minutes, and he's showing 58% striking defense. While Anglin here is landing also more than he absorbs. He lands 5.18, absorbs 4.4. Really good striking accuracy at 54%, and serviceable striking defense at 52%. But he has been knocked down once in 96 significant strikes absorbed. Anglin is 4 of 5 on his takedowns in 2 UFC fights. He's getting them at an 80% clip and getting 2.75 per 15 minutes. 22% control time for, 13% control time against. Sean Woodson's going to try to keep this fight standing. That is right here in the stats, you guys. Sean Woodson in 4 UFC fights has not attempted 1 takedown and has had 44 attempted against him. So if Colin Anglin comes in and tries to wrestle Sean Woodson, it won't be surprising for Sean Woodson. He's been seeing wrestling-heavy game plans in all of his UFC fights thus far. He's showing 81% takedown defense. He's getting taken down 2.42 times for 15 minutes, but he's only been controlled less than a quarter of his UFC career, and that's actually pretty good, seeing as he's been facing 11 takedown attempts per fight against. So Woodson's done a good job keeping the fight standing. Colin Anglin has done a good job getting the takedowns when he goes for them, but he's not exactly getting a ton of control time here. On those 4 takedowns, it looks like he got about 5 minutes of control time. So he's going to need more than 5 minutes of control time probably to win this fight, because he will not be winning the standing exchanges against Sean Woodson at a 7-inch reach disadvantage, at a footwork disadvantage, at a speed disadvantage, length disadvantage, boxing disadvantage. But, you know, Woodson is a boxer who's heavy on his lead leg. There are great tactics to deal with that. Low leg kicks are a great way to deal with great boxers like Woodson. We could see Anglin have some, success if he does go to the low leg kicks here. That could, limit the movement of Woodson. And then Anglin's going to have to watch his own calves, because he's going to have to use them to drive off of in order to get the takedowns that he's going to need to win this fight. This line is wide, you guys. There's not much here in the strength of schedule numbers. Woodson's fighting a decent opponent here, just a little bit less than a 1 ratio, and 5.25 total fights. He's fought guys like Zalal, Erosa, Bochniak, McKinney, while we saw Anglin beat Muhammad Naimov and then lose to Bagdasaryan. The line is wide, though, you guys. There's all this money coming in, flooding in on Woodson, and it's really, in my opinion, made the line unbettable. It opened at minus 300. It got back up here to about minus 270. That's where it stayed. And then just about yesterday, it went from minus 271 to minus 328. At this price, you might as well just take the shot on Anglin at plus 275. I think there's value there. I think he could potentially win minutes with his wrestling, although it's going to be a tough road to hoe. Woodson's got really good takedown defense. He's good at keeping the fight on the feet. And if you get sloppy shooting in for a takedown against somebody with his length, you could catch a knee right up the middle. And that's exactly how he knocked out Terrence McKinney. And we could see it happen again if Anglin gets sloppy. So, Woodson should win this fight. He should be able to keep this fight standing for long enough so that he can win enough minutes to get a judge's decision here. I think if you're going to bet Sean Woodson, the way to do it would be to bet him by decision. And Woodson by decision, you're actually getting plus money. You can get as good as plus 125 here. And we already went over the finish numbers for Woodson. They're not impressive. So maybe that'd be the best way to go about it. I'm going to pick Sean Woodson to win this fight by decision. But I think Anglin has a chance to win this. I just haven't seen enough of just selling out to go to the wrestling for Anglin yet in order for me to believe that he can push a wrestling heavy game plan for 3 full rounds and do it successfully enough to win a decision here. So I'm going to pick Sean Woodson to win this fight by decision, you guys. Let's move on to the next one. This is a very interesting fight. We got Miguel Baeza going up against Khaos Williams. Both of these guys south of 30, Baeza 29, Khaos 27. We got Baeza with a 2-inch height advantage, but it's going to be Khaos Williams with a 3-inch reach advantage. Another MMA Masters product here in Baeza, while Khaos Williams coming out of Murcielago. We've got Khaos with the experience advantage, 3 more pro fights, about 40 more minutes in the cage, while it's been Baeza who's fighting less than 2 fights a year here. He's been a pro for longer than Khaos. It's just Khaos is fighting about 3 times a year, while Baeza have been much less busy at less than 2 times a year. Baeza, 5 UFC fights, Khaos 4. A little more experience here for Baeza inside the UFC cage. If we look at the finish rates here, we see Baeza finishing 8 of his 10 pro wins. We got Khaos Williams finishing 7 of his 12 pro wins, 6 by knockout, 1 by submission. Neither one of these guys has ever been finished in 3 professional losses. Both of them are very durable. All you got to do is watch that Ponzinibbio fight with Baeza to know that this guy can take a punch and he's got a serious chin. And Khaos has been in there with some killers, man. Abdul Razak Al Hassan has got a ton of power. Michelle Pereira, Semmelsberger, and then a veteran like Morono as well. So, yeah, this is going to be a really good fight. Let's look at these striking numbers. We see Baeza in a 5-fight sample size, landing 5.3 per minute, absorbing 5.1. He's got about 50% striking accuracy, showing a ton of power here, you guys. 1.81% knockdowns per total significant strikes landed, 1.43 knockdowns per 15 minutes. That's serious power numbers. And both of these guys' striking defense is okay. It's Williams with 51%, Baeza with 53%. It's going to be Baeza who's more accurate, but Khaos has got a really good striking differential and ratio here as he lands 5.2 per minute, but only absorbs 3.59. So I would say that Khaos, despite the fact he has a lower striking defense, that he's been better defensively. He's been more efficient in the striking exchanges. And even though Baez has been more powerful, Khaos has been powerful in his own right. We do see Baeza attempting 1 takedown per fight. He's had 5 takedown attempts in 5 fights. He's gotten 2 of them, but he's only amassed 4% control time with those 2 takedowns. While we've seen Khaos Williams not get any takedowns, but even though Khaos's opponents have taken him down twice, and Khaos has never been taken down, or Khaos's opponents took Khaos down twice. Khaos never took down his opponents. It's Khaos who's actually out-controlling his opponents 8.29% to 4.47%. So when Khaos has been taken down, he has gotten right back up. His opponents have only managed about 1.5 minutes of control time on those 2 takedowns. So very impressive. Both these guys are good at keeping the fight standing when they want. We see that Baeza's fights are taking place at striking range over 95% of the time. And for Khaos Williams, it's about 87% of the time. So if we're going to say that we think that this fight is going to take place standing, that's what the numbers are telling us. So I think the best way to look at this is to figure out who's got the technical advantage in the striking exchanges. Is it Baeza? Is it Williams? I'm not a former boxer, so I can't tell you that. But I do know that the numbers are telling me that this fight is most likely to take place almost entirely standing. If Baeza wants to use his wrestling. He has attempted one takedown attempt per fight. He is training at MMA Masters. He's the same weight as Colby Covington. You get the idea he might be maybe willing to go to his wrestling here. That could be a game changer. That could be a potential way for Baeza to win enough minutes for you to think that he wins this fight. But that's an assumption that we have to make because we haven't seen much of it. And even when Baeza has wrestled, he's not getting a lot of control time out of it. So let's look at the strength of schedule numbers here. Khaos Williams has a better ratio than Baeza, 2.5 to 1.53, and the total fights are actually similar. So I'm giving Khaos the edge here, and Khaos's wins have come against guys with a 2.83 ratio and 7.67 total fights. So very impressive wins. While for Baeza, they're good as well. Baeza's beaten guys with winning records who are fairly experienced as well, but it's Khaos that has the strength of schedule advantage here, you guys. The only loss for Baeza came to Santiago Ponzinibbio, while for Khaos Williams, he lost to Michel Pereira, who doesn't have the best record, but who's been on a bit of a roll here in the UFC, and he kind of got robbed in that Diego Sanchez fight. So instead of him being, 4-2, he could be 5-1. And then that would look like a much better loss, almost as good of a loss as the Ponzinibbio loss. So, yeah, Khaos Williams here, I'm giving him, I'm giving him the tail of the tape advantage, the strength of schedule advantage, and a little bit of an experience advantage here, but just a little bit. Well, I think Baeza will probably be the better technical striker, although Khaos has been a little more efficient. But I think Baeza could potentially win some minutes going to the wrestling. We haven't seen much of it from him, but he might keep it in his back pocket. I think he'll be the guy more likely to win minutes with the wrestling here. And I think it's really close on the feet. So I'm going to pick Miguel Baeza to win this fight. Both of these guys have a ton of power. I think it's one of the best inside the distance lines on the fight or on the card, you guys. But here's the most interesting thing. Miguel Baeza, 1 loss. Khaos Williams, 2 losses. Neither one of these guys has ever been finished, and neither one of these guys has ever been knocked down in the UFC. So I think a cheeky bet could be that this fight actually goes to decision, you guys. Because neither one of these guys has ever been finished, they're both incredibly durable, and they both got great chins. Fight doesn't go to decision. Oh, God, that's juiced up to minus 160. What was I thinking? I thought that both these guys had pretty good inside the distance lines. Anyway, fight doesn't go is minus 160. I think that this fight doesn't go, the fight goes to decision is plus money. I'm sorry, you guys. Plus 130, I think, for fight goes to decision is a pretty good bet here. They're both very durable. Neither one of them is going to grapple much, I don't think. And both of them, being that durable, they both do have a lot of power in their own right, but getting plus money, that could be a cheeky little bet. I'm going to pick Miguel Baeza to win this fight, you guys, by decision. Let's move on here. We got Cynthia Calvillo against Andrea Lee. All right, we've got Calvillo 2 years older. It's going to be Lee with the 2-inch height advantage and a 5-inch reach advantage here for Andrea Lee. So definitely a tail of the tape advantage here for Lee. And it's Lee who's more experienced here, having 4 more professional fights and about 50 more minutes of cage time and about 2 more years as a pro. While it's Calvillo who's fought a higher percentage of her career at the UFC level, 10 UFC fights for Calvillo, 7 for Lee. And we see a 6-3-1 record for Calvillo, 4-3 for Lee. Both of these ladies winning records thus far. Calvillo a little more time in the UFC cage as well. So, the experience for me is about even, because even though Lee's got 4 more pro fights and about 50 more minutes as a pro in the cage, it's Calvillo who's got 3 more UFC fights and about 26 more minutes in the UFC cage. I'll call the experience a wash, giving Lee the tail of the tape. If we look at the finish stats here, 59% finish rate overall for Lee, 55% finish rate overall for Calvillo. And both these ladies are pretty tough in that in their 8 combined losses, only 2 of them have come inside the distance. So, I would say that this fight probably does go to decision. Andrea Lee's only loss is by submission, though. That's inside the distance. And Cynthia Calvillo does have an excellent submission game. So I suppose that's a possibility. If we look at the striking stats here, and this is a good one to look at because we've got a good sample size for both fighters. 10 fights for Calvillo, 7 for Lee. We see that Calvillo lands about a half strike more per minute than she absorbs. She lands 4.24, absorbs 3.76. It's going to be a 41% striking accuracy for Calvillo and a 65% striking defense. She's never been knocked down, and she's never knocked anyone down. Lee also lands more than she absorbs, but at even a better rate than Calvillo. She lands 5.48, but only absorbs 3.68. So that's a significant strike differential per minute of 1.8. Very impressive. Also a 65% striking defense for Lee. She throws more than her opponents do, while Calvillo gets out-volumed by her opponents at a very small rate. If we look at the grappling stats here, both of these ladies have some pretty impressive numbers here, and they're pretty similar. 3.4 takedown attempts per fight for Calvillo. She's getting 15 of them at a 44% rate, 1.77 per 15 minutes, 22% control time for. Andrea Lee attempting about 3.5 takedown attempts per fight as well. She's getting them at a higher clip than Calvillo is. She's getting a little more per 15 minutes than Calvillo, and right around the same amount of control time for. And then if we look at control time against, Calvillo's been very efficient. 22% control time for, 1.5% control time against. 71% takedown defense for Calvillo is pretty good. 58% takedown defense, not as good for Lee. Lee is being taken down 2.4 times per 15 minutes, while Calvillo is only being taken down 0.47 times. So when I see Calvillo out-controlling her opponents at a 22% to 1% rate, and Lee really exchanging control time at an even rate with her opponents, I would give the grappling edge to Cynthia Calvillo here. She's more efficient. She's spending a lot more time in control time positions, and she's showing a more likely ability to be able to keep the fight on the feet if she wants it there, because her takedown defense, 71.5% compared to 58% for Lee. So I'm giving Calvillo the grappling advantage here. I'm giving Lee the striking advantage. The experience is close. Lee should be able to make use of that striking advantage with that 5-inch reach advantage. So let's look at the strength of schedule. And man, this is close because we see, Calvillo, better strength of schedule, better ratio, more experienced opponents. The wins, about the same, though. Andrea Lee's wins about as impressive as Calvillo's wins. And then if we look at the losses, it's going to be Calvillo. Maybe a slight strength of schedule edge here for Cynthia Calvillo, I would give, but this is close all over the place. Who wins more minutes? Because I think this fight goes to decision. If Calvillo can out-wrestle Lee, I think she can win enough minutes and keep it close enough on the feet to win this fight by decision. I'm going to pick Cynthia Calvillo to win this fight by decision. But it's a greasy one. It's going to be close, and I feel that I am not going to be betting on this fight. Let's see where the lines are, and let's see which way the money is going. So we got it's Calvillo a slight favorite here, and she opened at minus 150, got bet all the way down to about plus 100, and now money's coming into her here at minus 122, and we got Lee opening up at plus 130, made the favorite, and now being made the underdog again. So this line's flipped a couple of times. Calvillo will probably go off as the favorite here. And then, I figure that this is going to be a very close fight, but I'm going to pick Cynthia Calvillo by decision. All right, let's see where we're at here. We got Moises Alvarez, Yadong, Arce, Diakese, Spencer Letson. So we're halfway through here. You guys want to hear a story? You guys want to do a little story time with Uncle Weezy? I got a funny one for you guys today. Something that happened to me a couple of weeks ago, and then all of a sudden I got a call the other day that was shocking to say the least. So let me pull up Wikipedia here. There is a mathematician, a Belgian mathematician, Jacqueus. Jacques Tits. Let's look at Jacques Tits here on Wikipedia. He is a French / Belgian mathematician. And Mr. Tits here was born in August of 1930. He's 91 years old. I think he just recently passed away. And I got friends of mine who will send me some, they'll send a text with some stupid shit in there, like something like this. And I got a text and it's like, hey, rest in peace, Jacques Tits. And I'm over at my friend's place. And, I laugh at him. What an unfortunate name this guy has, Jacques Tits. I mean, and by the way, rest in peace, Jacques Tits. The guy, a giant in the areas here of group theory and incidence geometry. I mean, if you've ever studied any of those subjects, the name of Jacques Tits will come up pretty often here. But so he sent me this text. I laughed at it. I showed my friend. I'm watching football over at his place a couple of Sundays ago. And while we're enjoying a good laugh looking at this text from my friend, his son comes over and says, "What are you guys laughing at?" And so because I didn't want to give my friend's son the impression that we're just a couple of fucking old guys who still laugh at dumbass shit like a dude with the name Jacques Tits, I told him and lied and said, yeah, when I was studying statistics at Northern Illinois, the Harvard of the Midwest, this is a guy that we learned a lot about. He's an absolute giant in the area of incidence geometry and group theory. And I had just heard that he passed away, so I was telling, my friend, rest in peace, Jacques Tits. And, and of course his son thought it was hilarious that the guy's name was Jacques Tits. And, so we had a good laugh about it, moved on. Fast forward like a week and a half, right? And I get a call and I see I see the caller ID, and it's my friend who I was over at his house, but it's his wife, right? And it's his wife's name on the caller ID. I'm like, and she never calls me. I don't even think that she likes me, to be honest with you. And after the conversation that we had, I'm pretty sure that she doesn't. But so she calls me, and I answer the phone like I'm going to speak to her husband, because there's no reason for this woman to call me. She would never call me. But then she says, no, it's so-and-so's wife. I'm like, oh, what's going on? What's up? And she goes, were you helping my son with a paper that he wrote? I said, what? She goes, did you give my son an idea to write a paper? And I'm just sitting there thinking, I'm not involved with your son's schoolwork at all. I have no idea what kind of a question is this, right? And evidently, she's there, her son's there, his brother's there, and then my friend is there. They're all in the room. She's got it on speakerphone, and she's talking to me. I'm like, oh, I'm not involved with your son's schoolwork at all. I have no idea what you're talking about. And she goes, well, so-and-so came home and he wrote a paper about a mathematician named Jacques Tits. And the paper was supposed to be about somebody that he admired. Okay. And then he tells me that you told him about Jacques Tits. And I'm like, as soon as she said that he wrote the paper about Jacques Tits, I just started losing it. And have you ever met somebody that could be in a room full of people? Like there could be 10 people in the room and somebody tells an inappropriate joke and 9 people are laughing their ass off. And there's that one fucking person that's in the room and will have the audacity to tell 9 people who are laughing extremely hard, that's not funny. Well, that's what she hit me with. She goes, this is not funny. She said that just like that. And I'm hearing my friend cracking up in the background. I'm hearing his son, both of his sons cracking up in the background. I'm laughing my ass off. And I'm like, are you kidding me? He wrote a paper about Jacques Tits? And she goes, yes. And this was all your idea. How did he find out about Jacques Tits? And I go, well, the young man had expressed an interest in math. And I was, I was totally... I didn't know what to say, I mean, like, I didn't know he was going to write a paper. He didn't run this by me. And by the way, I'm not going to say his name, but shout out to my friend's son for writing the best fucking paper. He's going to be high-fiving all of his friends for like the next 3 months. He's going to be a hero in that school because his Uncle Weezy told him about Jacques Tits. He's going to be a fucking legend. But yet his mother's on the phone telling me that this isn't funny. And I said to her, I said her name. I said, do you mean to tell me that 10 years down the road, you're not going to think that this is funny? Your son writing a paper about a man that he admired, a French mathematician by the name of Jacques Tits, who, by the way, introduced Tits buildings, the Tits alternative, the Tits group, and the Tits metric. Do you know how baller of an individual you have to have the last name Tits and then name everything that you do in life after your last name? The Tits group, Tits buildings, the Tits metric. This guy was not afraid. He was fucking neck deep in the fact that his last name is Tits, and he fucking wrote it. He went all the way to the wall with it, balls to the wall. Shout out Jacques Tits. Rest in peace, Jacques Tits. And shout out my buddy's son who wrote the best damn paper that has ever been written in any high school in the state of Illinois in the last 10 years. And I'll leave you guys with this. If you have kids, tell them to write a paper about Jacques Tits. This is going to be the greatest thing. Don't even tell your wife. Just pull your son aside. You say, you want to be the hero of the school for the next couple of weeks, maybe next couple of months? Got a paper coming up? I got an idea for your paper. One Jacques Tits. All right, you guys. I got a friend of mine's wife who's fucking pissed at me right now, and she did not see the humor in this situation. So I wanted to share it with you guys because I hope that you guys could find the humor in this situation. So let's move on, you guys. Story time is over. We're already an hour into this. We got to get through these last 6 fights. Song Yadong versus Julio Arce. Okay, we've got Song Yadong, only 23 years old, 9 years younger than Julio Arce. He's going to be 1 inch taller, but it's going to be Arce with the 3-inch reach advantage here, you guys. Arce is southpaw, Yadong orthodox, fighting out of Team Alpha Male. Julio Arce, one of those Tiger Schulman boys on the East Coast. And we've got Yadong actually has 3 more fights than Julio Arce, despite the fact that Arce is 9 years older than him. Excuse me, I got to get one good cough out here. Oh, man. Oh, by the way, you guys are saying, like, what did he get on the paper? I didn't ask, but I mean, if he didn't get an A, who the hell is this teacher? You know, I don't know. I'm sorry. I should have waited to tell this story. It's going to be hard for me to get through these last fights. But so yeah, 3 more fights for Yadong because he took his first professional fight. Yeah, we go from tits to Yadong, says Matthew Chalk. Sorry, you guys. I got to stick to MMA, man. 30 more minutes in the cage for Julio Arce. Yadong took his first professional fight at the age of 15, so he's extremely experienced for a young man of 23. Yadong 1 more fight than Arce here. We've got a 58% finish rate overall for Julio Arce. He's got just as many wins by submission as he does by knockout. And for Song Yadong, we've got 35% of his wins by knockout, 18% by sub, 53% finish rate overall. Neither one of these guys are killer finishers. But in the 9 losses between these 2 guys, we've only got 2 finishes. So that's a really good. I love seeing that with a 9 sample size for total losses. Then we go. We want to see this fight going the distance, and that would be a great bet here. So let's get into the striking numbers here, you guys. Both of these guys really impressive striking ratios. 4.91 significant strikes landed a minute for Yadong, only 3.9 absorbed, 43% accuracy. He's landing a knockdown on 2/3 of 1% of the significant strikes that he lands and getting 0.49 knockdowns for 15 minutes. Arce with a really good ratio here as well, landing 4.31 per minute and only absorbing 2.94. Look at that 67% striking defense for Julio Arce. Arce is an excellent boxer, really good on his feet, really crisp hands, throws that 1-2 right down the middle, and he's a southpaw, so he's a difficult challenge for a lot of people. However, Song Yadong's last opponent, Casey Kenny, was also a southpaw, so he's used to seeing southpaws with nice hands. You guys, this fight is really close. This is a really good fight. I'd like to go a little bit deeper into this one, but we don't have the time. Song Yadong, 7 takedown attempts in 8 fights, so not much with the offensive grappling here, but he is getting them at a pretty good rate, but he's allowing or averaging less than a half takedown per 15 minutes. 13% control time for, 13% control time against. Not good takedown defense here for Song Yadong. Only 60.71%. Only successfully defended 17 of 28 takedown attempts against. However, Song Yadong's been in the cage for 91 minutes. He's allowing 13% control time. So that is about 12 minutes of control time on 11 takedowns. So Yadong does have a good get-up game. Julio Arce, though, on the other hand, is showing fantastic takedown defense here at north of 93%. He's successfully defended 15 of 16 takedown attempts against, and he's only getting controlled 10% of his UFC career, most of that on the fence. Julio Arce only gets 9% control time, so both these guys, I think, are more comfortable on the feet boxing, but it's Arce who does a better job of keeping the fight in boxing range, but not by much, though, you guys. So the grappling is really even here. The striking numbers for me are pretty even. Yadong more accurate, but Arce is better defensively. Arce has been knocked down twice, though, in 253 significant strikes absorbed. So that actually could be significant. If we look at the strength of schedule here, definitely got to give it to Yadong overall. 1.82 ratio for 1.35. And then we've got 7.75 total fights for 5.71 for the Diakese fight is canceled? God damn it. Son of a bitch. All right, well, you know what? That's one less fight to break down. All right, so anyway, Yadong's got the better strength of schedule here. He's got the better wins, and he's got the better losses. So we got to give the strength of schedule to Song here. I would give the measurables, the 3-inch reach advantage here, and Arce being a southpaw to Arce. The experience is even. The finish stats are even. The striking, this is such a hard fight to call. Here's what I think it comes down to, right? Who's going to win the minutes? And if there's one guy I think that can actually win some minutes with the wrestling, it's probably going to be Arce here. So I'm going to pick Arce to win this fight by a greasy split decision. These are two really good fighters. Song Yadong still only 23. Man, this is a great fight. And this is a division full of studs. So, man, this is going to be a really close one, you guys. I'm going to pick Julio Arce by a greasy split decision. Rest in peace, the Roman Dolidze, Kyle Diakese fight. We hardly knew ye. I was so close to making a bet on Dolidze at plus 175. And I would say rest in peace to the Felipe Lins Ovin St. Preux fight, but frankly, I didn't need a nap during this card, so I don't care that one is not happening. So let's move on to a fight that's on the main card. Why? Don't ask your Uncle Weezy, because I don't have that answer. But we got Felicia Spencer against Leah Letson. Leah Letson, 1 year younger, 1 inch taller, and a 3-inch reach advantage. We got Leah training out of Pura Vida in Wisconsin, I believe. And we got the Jungle MMA for Felicia Spencer out of Canada. Felicia Spencer, about twice as experienced here. She's got about twice as much cage time. But both of these ladies have been in the game the same amount of time. It's just been Spencer that's been way more busy. Spencer, well, not even that busy. She's only fighting less than twice a year, but not to be outdone by Leah Letson, who's fighting less than once a year. Only one UFC fight for Letson. It was against Julia Stolyarenko. However, she was also in the Ultimate Fighter house, got some experience in there for the featherweight women's Ultimate Fighter. So 60% finish rate for Letson. 3 of her 5 wins by knockout. Spencer has finished 4 of her 8 wins by submission, 2 of them by knockout. Neither one of these ladies has ever been finished in 4 professional losses. That tells me that this fight is probably going to decision. But the thing is, you guys, if we look at the advanced stats here, when we look at Leah Letson, the big red flag here is going to be the fact that she hasn't fought for 3 years. Her last fight was against Julia Stolyarenko, November 30th, 2018. So it's been 3 years since we've seen her in the cage. She's been in the military and she's had health problems as well. Supposedly now she's fully healthy, ready to go. Who knows how many improvements she's made since she's been gone. But if we break it down by the numbers, Felicia Spencer, twice as experienced. Felicia Spencer has fought the much better brand of competition. I mean, she's been in there 5 rounds with Cyborg and with Amanda Nunes. You know, and it's we don't know what Leah Letson we're going to see here. The line is very wide. Felicia Spencer is very, very, very nasty on the mat. However, she's not good at getting it there. Only 2 takedowns in 5 fights for Felicia Spencer on 19 attempts. And I do think that Leah Letson, being a knockout artist, being a hard hitter, we're going to see her want to keep this fight on the feet. Felicia Spencer fought almost her entire fight on the feet with Norma Dumont, didn't even try to take her down once. And that was surprisingly close. So if Felicia Spencer can hang in the striking exchanges with somebody that's as well-tested as Dumont, as big as Dumont, as thick as Dumont, I do see Felicia Spencer getting the better of the striking exchanges here, but simply because I don't know what Leah Letson's going to look like, you guys. Leah Letson, this is one little stat that is very encouraging here. She's been 100% on her takedown defense and was not controlled any of the fight really against Julia Stolyarenko. So if Spencer does kind of sell out trying to go to the wrestling and get this fight to the ground, which is something she did not do against Norma Dumont, maybe Letson might be able to keep it on the feet and make this a really greasy, close fight. However, I could see Spencer winning this even if it is a 15-minute striking match, but if it goes to the ground, Spencer, it's going to be Spencer all day. She's just got the pedigree. She's very good down there. So we don't have much information, you guys, in terms of the strength of schedule stats, but obviously because Felicia Spencer has fought like 2 of the GOATs in Cyborg and Nunes, and she's even got a win over Megan Anderson. She's got a 3.83 ratio and 5.8 total fights. So yeah, it's obviously Spencer who's fought the better brand of competition. It's obviously Spencer who's the way better grappler here. Letson might be the better striker, but I don't know that for sure. I did just see Felicia Spencer fight a few months ago against a really good striker in Norma Dumont and hold her own on the feet. So Letson's going to have to, lean on that 3-inch reach advantage, that 1-inch height advantage, and that 1 less year of age, and hope that, that time off that she made a ton of improvements. Because if she didn't, this should easily be Felicia Spencer. Am I betting Felicia Spencer at minus 317? No, I would encourage that you don't either. I do think she wins this fight, but you just never know. Maybe Letson comes out like a house of fire. Maybe she's just completely revamped as a fighter. We don't know. But, if this fight stays standing for 15 minutes, and it certainly might because Spencer can't wrestle at all, and she doesn't even show the likelihood that she's going to want to. So I do think Spencer wins this fight. I'm gonna pick her to win it by decision. This is a 1-800 gambler fight for me, simply because we just don't know what we're going to see out of Letson. And to lay minus 317 on somebody like Spencer, who's shown really pitiful fight IQ in the past, you don't want to do that. That's a good way to lose your bankroll fast. So pick is Felicia Spencer. Please don't bet it. Next fight, you guys. Let's move on here. We got the co-main event, a very interesting fight. Ben Rothwell versus Marcos Rogerio de Lima. Ben Rothwell 40, de Lima 36. Ben Rothwell, the natural heavyweight here, going to be 3 inches taller and have a 3-inch reach advantage. Rogerio de Lima is a fat, light heavyweight, and if he was really in shape, he would be a middleweight. We've got Ben Rothwell with twice as many pro fights as Rogerio de Lima, 52 professional fights. We got 200 more minutes of cage time. We've got 8 more years as a pro, and we've got 4 more fights at the UFC level for Rothwell and about 100 more minutes in the UFC cage. So Rothwell, the tail of the tape advantage. Rothwell, the experience advantage. Finish rates, we got a 90% finish rate overall for Rothwell, a 84% finish rate for Rogerio de Lima. He's finished 6 of his 7 wins inside the distance in the UFC, while Ben Rothwell has finished 7 of his 9 wins inside the distance in the UFC. Let's see. We've got a 85% finish rate in against for Rogerio de Lima in his 7 losses. So 6 of his 7 losses coming inside the distance. Ben Rothwell's been finished inside the distance 6 of his 13. And that would be 4 by knockout, 2 by submission. If we look at the striking numbers for these guys, we are going to see Ben Rothwell lands 4 significant strikes a minute and absorbs 5.14. He's got a 43% striking accuracy. He's landing a knockdown on 0.6% of the significant strikes that he lands, 0.35 knockdowns for 15 minutes. He's only been knocked down once in 16 UFC fights in 875 significant strikes absorbed. Legendary durability and toughness for Ben Rothwell here, but not legendary striking defense at 44.76%. That is not good. De Lima lands 3.04 significant strikes a minute and absorbs 1.19 only. He's landing at a 57% rate. He's got great power. He's got 5 UFC knockdowns in 12 fights. He's landing a knockdown on 2.58% of the significant strikes that he lands, and that's 1.18 knockdowns for 15 minutes. So I would say Rogerio de Lima is the more powerful guy, but remember, a lot of those knockdowns did come at the 205-pound weight class, which he used to fight at. He's never been knocked down in 12 UFC fights. So in the 28 fights that these guys have combined in the UFC, they've only been knocked down a total of 1 time. So both of these guys are actually pretty durable. If we look at the grappling here, we see Rogerio de Lima, 6 of 9 on his takedown attempts. He's got almost 60% take control time for, while only 13% control time against. So while a lot of people talk about how great of a kickboxer Rogerio de Lima is, don't bet on Rogerio de Lima if you think he's going to out kickbox somebody, because that's not going to happen. You would need to be striking for more than 50% of the fight to have a chance to knock somebody out. And in this case, Rogerio de Lima, 72% of his fights are taking place in control time positions. Only 28% of his fights take place at striking range. I don't think he's entirely comfortable there. Rothwell is out-controlling his opponents 19% to 11%. So about 70% of Ben Rothwell's fights take place at striking defense, at striking distance. 27 takedown attempts in 16 fights for Rothwell. He's gotten 9 of them. He gets less than 1 takedown per 15 minutes and about a half submission attempt per 15 minutes. And he's got 59.26% takedown defense, but a very good get-up game, as those 11 takedowns have he's only been controlled for 17 minutes of his UFC career on 27 takedown attempts and 11 takedowns. So Rothwell is going to be probably the better grappler here. He's the guy who actually submits legit grapplers. He's got a submission over Chris Barnett, the good Barnett, you guys, the catch wrestler Barnett. So we see that it's going to be Rothwell who's fought the way better brand of competition here. 1.43 ratio to 1.06 for De Lima. Way more experienced competition Ben Rothwell is fighting here. And if we look at the wins, they're much better for Rothwell and the losses better for Rothwell. So big strength of schedule advantage here for Rothwell. Big tail of the tape advantage here for Rothwell. Big experience advantage here for Rothwell. The striking, it's going to be close. It's going to be Lima who has the power advantage. But we got to talk about one thing if we're going to talk about this fight: conditioning. Conditioning is going to be a big part of this fight because both of these dudes have bricks for heads, and they're both extremely difficult to knock out. Rogerio de Lima can out-grapple a kickboxer in Maurice Green, but he's not out-grappling Ben Rothwell. As a matter of fact, if he shoots for a sloppy takedown, he's getting go-go choked. So I hate this matchup for De Lima, you guys. He's got terrible conditioning, and Ben Rothwell brings a ton of pace and pressure and conditioning to his game. And he's much more used to being in the striking exchanges than De Lima is. I mean, 70% of Rothwell's fights take place standing. 27% of De Lima's fights take place standing. So which one of these guys is going to dominate if they're standing up, if they're exchanging? It's going to be the guy who's pressuring. It's going to be the guy with better conditioning. And it's going to be the guy who throws more volume and is more comfortable in those striking exchanges. So I do see Ben Rothwell getting the better of the striking here, but I'm not blind to the fact that De Lima is more accurate and that Rothwell doesn't have great striking defense and that De Lima hits hard. But his path is first round or nothing, because once this gets past the first round, Rothwell is going to be marching down De Lima like a zombie. And once De Lima gets tired, there's no way he's taking down Ben Rothwell. Rothwell's the much bigger dude here. He's the natural heavyweight. De Lima's probably should be a middleweight. So, yeah, I'm picking Ben Rothwell here, you guys. It's definitely one of my most confident picks of the night. I pick him to get it done inside the distance, late second round or early third round after De Lima's gas tank completely empties here from fighting the bigger, more experienced, tougher guy. Ben Rothwell inside the distance by submission is the pick. That brings us to the main event, you guys. Max Holloway versus Yair Rodriguez. In a pick that will shock absolutely nobody, I'm picking Max Holloway in this fight. If we look at the tail of the tape, almost identical. Yair Rodriguez will have a 2-inch reach advantage. Other than that, everything is identical. Holloway, much more experienced here. He's got almost 300 more minutes in the pro cage than Yair Rodriguez in only one more year as a pro. 24 UFC fights for Max Holloway. Good God. This guy came into the UFC with a 4-0 record, I think at the age of 19 or 20. Max Holloway's been fighting at the highest level for the longest time. He's fought everybody. He's got 3 times as much time in the UFC cage as Yair Rodriguez, 2.5 times more fights. If we look at finishing stats here, 54% finish rate overall for Yair, 54% finish rate overall for Holloway. Holloway's been finished in one of his 6 pro losses by submission. That was Dustin Poirier that did that to him, while Yair Rodriguez has been knocked out in both of his professional losses. So 100% finish rate against for Yair Rodriguez, which is interesting because if Holloway does win this fight, I think he's going to get it done inside the distance. We've seen a lot of very tough guys absorb a ton of strikes against Max Holloway, but the bottom line is if you can't outbox this guy and then you can't take him down, unless you're next level stupid tough, you're gonna go down. And I mean, like, Brian Ortega never went down, but they just stopped that fight. I mean, it wasn't competitive anymore. They had to stop it. He accrued too much damage. I mean, Calvin Kattar absorbed over 400 significant strikes in 5 rounds against Max Holloway. Yeah, let's look at the striking numbers because this is Max Holloway. So let's enjoy one of the best strikers in the UFC. Let's enjoy the striking statistics here of Max Holloway. He lands 7.26 significant strikes per minute. He throws 15.57 significant strikes per minute, lands at about 46.5% accuracy. I think he's got 8 knockdowns in 2,618 significant strikes landed, 0.33 knockdowns for 15 minutes. Striking defense north of 60%, a significant strike differential per minute of over 2.5. Just absolutely fantastic striking numbers from Max Holloway. And Yair Rodriguez really good too. I mean, he throws way less volume and lands way less per minute, but he lands 4.33 and absorbs 3.13. So a positive 1.2 significant strike differential per minute. He's just as accurate as Holloway, a little more powerful than Holloway. And neither one of these guys has ever been knocked down. That's amazing. 24 UFC fights against the killers that Max Holloway has fought. How many title fights? Fights against guys like Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier and Alexander Volkanovski. I mean, he's fought everybody, and he's never been knocked down. And same thing with Yair Rodriguez, but Yair Rodriguez has absorbed 416 significant strikes. Max Holloway has absorbed more than 1,500, and he's never been knocked down. It's amazing. And then so when you see those great eye-popping striking numbers, one of the other things that you want to see to go along with those striking numbers is a high percentage of your fights taking place at striking range. Well, Max Holloway gives us that as well, as he is controlling his opponents 5.37% of the time, but being controlled 9.41% of the time. So over 85% of his fights are taking place at striking range. He's only attempted 7 takedowns in 24 fights, and he's gotten 5 of them. And this is another thing too. Max Holloway has attempted 7 takedowns, but he's had 145 takedowns attempted against him. So, that's amazing. This guy is getting out takedown attempted at a 20-to-1 ratio, but he's being out controlled at less than a 2-to-1 ratio. That's efficiency. That's fantastic takedown defense. That's a great get-up game. Max Holloway has all that in spades. And Yair Rodriguez does not have the kind of wrestling game where he should even be trying takedowns against Max Holloway, because that will be fruitless. That will be pointless. For a guy with less than 30% takedown accuracy to try to take down a guy with 84% takedown defense over 145 takedown attempt sample size, and he's been controlled probably about 33 minutes on 145 takedown attempts. I mean, that's crazy. So Max Holloway does a great job of keeping the fight standing. At boxing range, he will be tearing up Yair Rodriguez. And Max Holloway has such a great understanding of distance management. I think he'll know how to keep Yair, kind of at the range where he won't be doing damage with those flashy kicks that he throws. And plus, we haven't seen Yair Rodriguez fight in a very long time as well. So it's hard to know what version of Yair we're going to see here. This guy coming off a USADA suspension, he's kind of a prick anyway, getting into fights backstage with jumping people, Jeremy Stevens after he poked him in the eye, and guy's just kind of a prick. He's a shit talker, Yair Rodriguez, and I think he's going to get his mouth shut on Saturday night, man. This is a really, really tough test. And unless Yair Rodriguez has just made incredible improvements to his all-around game during the 2 years off, because we know we've seen what Max Holloway has been doing in there. We've seen how precise he is with his boxing. We've seen how tough he is. We've seen his conditioning. We've seen that all-around game. We've seen this guy grow up before our eyes. So I do see Max Holloway getting this job done inside the distance. I'm picking him to win by 3rd or 4th round knockout here. I think the attrition is going to be too much. Yair Rodriguez no longer on performance-enhancing drugs, on a 2-year layoff. And, just the level of competition too, you guys. Look at these numbers. 2.03 ratio for Holloway, 1.24 for Yair. The wins, 1.67 ratio in the wins for 1.26 for Yair. 3.52 ratio in the losses for Holloway, 1.89 for Yair. So, better strength of schedule. The 2-inch reach advantage goes to Yair. Experience advantage goes to Holloway. Striking advantage goes to Holloway. grappling advantage goes to Holloway simply because he's almost impossible to grapple. So this is going to be Max Holloway all day long. Parlay him up. Feel safe doing it. We were talking about the Max Holloway 4-5 decision line, minus 120 right now on FanDuel. That could be something to look at here. By the way, the Rothwell line is right up here around minus 155. Rogerio de Lima sitting here about plus 128. And then we see Holloway sitting at minus 680. I mean, what are you going to do with that? There's really nothing you could do with that. Plus 470 for Yair. So you got to get real cute if you want to get any kind of a return on a Holloway bet. Holloway, 4th, 5th, or by decision, I believe, is minus 120. That might be a good way to approach it. Or you could do, or you could, if you think he's going to get it done earlier than that, it'd be like plus 150 for round 1, 2, or 3. And I think he's going to pick Yair apart. The boxing is not even close. And Max's understanding of distance management will probably keep Yair very not dangerous in this spot. So yeah, that's it, you guys. We went through all 12. Well, we went through all 11 fights. So we had the Dawkins fight canceled. So let's get you guys a Greasy 4-leg parlay here. This could be an interesting week for parlays. So I'm going to start with the Cortney Casey money line. Let's start right there. I think that's a good place to go. And then I'm going to go with the Thiago Moises money line. I love that one. Normally I'd be giving you guys a bunch of violence bets, but not this week, man. There's not a lot of violence bets out there. So Casey money line, Moises money line, Rothwell money line, and then let's make the last leg that Max Holloway money line. So if we hit the first 3 on the parlay, we can easily hedge out and cover our expenses, getting something like plus 450 on the Yair Rodriguez line, plus 470. So it's always good to end your parlays with the widest line, because then that way you can hedge out at the end if you've covered the first 3 and lock in those profits, because we do know that Vegas was built on parlays. So we went through 11 fights. We did story time with Uncle Weezy and found out about a prominent Belgian mathematician by the name of Jacques Tits. We gave you a Greasy 4-leg parlay. So there's just one order of business to finish off with here, you guys. And that is going to be Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. And there are several opportunities out there, you guys. I mean, Holloway is going to shave ass, but he's minus 700. You don't need me to tell you that he's going to shave ass. I like Ben Rothwell to beat De Lima here, and I think that's going to be violent. I think Spencer should easily dispose of Leah Letson. I don't think that's going to be violent, though, and who knows. Yadong Arce, too close to call. Moises Alvarez. Whew, boy, I like Thiago Moises a lot in this spot. This is a very good fight. Did we even cover this fight? Did I skip over Joel Alvarez versus Thiago Moises? Fuck, I think I did. Let's go over it real quick, you guys, before Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week, because I didn't go over this fight. Joel Alvarez, 7-inch reach advantage. We got 20 fights for each of them. Moises, higher level of his percentage of his career at the UFC level. We've got a 60% finish rate overall for Moises, 100% finish rate for Alvarez. We've got in 7 combined losses, only 2 of them have come inside the distance. Alvarez been knocked out once. Thiago Moises been subbed once. That was by future lightweight GOAT Islam Makhachev. Moises, not impressive in the striking metrics, landing 2.5 and absorbing 3.81, while Alvarez lands 2.8 and absorbs 3.31. And we've got 0.78% knockdowns for total significant strikes landed from Moises. Look, let's not even look at the stats here. I'll break down this fight from what I saw on the tape. Moises is going to be the way better striker here. Joel Alvarez has 18 wins, 16 of them are by submission, and he wins fights because his opponents take him down. He folds like a lawn chair, and then he attacks submissions from guard, whether it's guillotines, triangles, or arm bars. He's like the welterweight, or I'm sorry, the lightweight Paul Craig. When this guy is on his back, he is absolutely dangerous, and he finishes fights from there. The problem is that Thiago Moises is a BJJ world champion. He's got the pedigree. He is a very, very high-level black belt. And if he doesn't want to go to the ground with Alvarez, he won't have to. Alvarez hasn't even tried a takedown in 3 UFC fights, and I've never even seen him complete a takedown on the regional scene. So Joel Alvarez is, dangerous from his back, but he's not dangerous standing. And we saw Thiago Moises absolutely destroy Alexander Hernandez on the feet. I don't think Alvarez is going to be able to use that reach advantage well. I think Moises can keep this fight standing as long as he wants, and as long as he keeps the fight standing, he'll do to Alvarez what Ismagulov did to Alvarez and just pick him apart from the outside, beat him up, and maybe even knock him out in the third round. I'm picking Thiago Moises to win this fight. I'm going to pick him to win by knockout in the third round. All right. So now we've went through all 11 fights. I can't believe I forgot Moises Alvarez. That's my bad, you guys. But yeah, I'm picking Moises to win. He's one of my most confident picks. But because I don't think that he's going to finish the fight violently, I'm picking Big Ben Rothwell as Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. The problem with Lima, I don't like his size. I don't like the fact that even though he has power, he does not spend a lot of time in the striking exchanges. And his grappling isn't good. It's just not good. He's out. I mean, he's getting subbed by Gadzimurad Antigulov, you guys. And if you look at the wins for Lima, let's just take a quick look here at the advanced stats at the wins for Rogerio de Lima. So a win over Maurice Green, 4-4. A win over the Combat Wombat, Ben Sosoli, 0-1. A win over Adam Wieczorek, 2-1. A win over Jeremy Kimball, 1-3. A win over Clint Hester, 4-3. A win over Igor Pokrayak, 4-8. And then Richardson Morea, 0-2. So no signature wins there. There's not one impressive win there, but he's got 7 UFC wins. And when he steps up and fights veterans like Krylov, St. Preux, Struve, Romanov, he loses, and he loses inside the distance every time, you guys. Every time. As soon as he realizes it's not going his way, he looks for the door and he finds it 100% of the time in his UFC losses. So, and then you look at and then not only that, we've got a common opponent here in Stefan Struve. Stefan Struve actually subbed him. He's beaten Struve. He's beaten St. Preux, while he's losing to these guys. So lost to St. Preux, lost to Struve, and Ben Rothwell is beating these guys just last year and the year before that. So strength of schedule, Rothwell. Stand up, Rothwell. Grappling, Rothwell. Conditioning, Rothwell. Toughness, Rothwell. Experience, Rothwell. Ass shaving of the week, Ben Rothwell. You guys, we did it. Tuesday night, 11 fights. Story time with Uncle Weezy. Greasy 4-leg parlay. Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. And of course, we couldn't have done any of it without all of yous guys in here hanging out with me. 35 of you right now. There were over 40 earlier. Thank each and every one of you guys for spending your Tuesday night with me. God bless each and every one of you guys for hanging out on Tuesday night for just the tip. Let's stack a bunch of cash tickets like flapjacks, and let's win a bunch of money on UFC Vegas 42. Thanks for hanging out, you guys. I really appreciate it. We'll talk to you guys soon. I'll be doing 2 balls deep breakdowns on Wednesday tomorrow. We will start with Jung versus Kennedy and Nzchekuwu, and then we'll figure out another one to do later on. God bless everybody. Good night.